Assalamu alaikum students, hope you all are fine and doing well in your studies. Our today's lesson about atomic structure, in which you will learn that atomic structure, and our today's objective is reduce the number of reduce the number of protons, electrons and neutrons in an in atoms and ions from atomic number and atomic mass. As you all know that atomic mass is known as a nucleon number and atomic number is known as a proton number. I will start my lesson from the previous lessons. You may say that a recap or a quick refresher. Like if we have an element sodium and its atomic number is 11 and atomic mass is 23. So if we are going to draw its electronic structure, sodium, its nucleus, and in its first shell we have how many electrons? 2 electrons. In its second shell we have how many electrons? 8 electrons. And in its third shell we have how many electrons? 1 electron. You all are well known about the periodic table. Periodic table of elements. Periodic table of elements in which elements are arranged, in which elements are arranged in their increasing atomic number. Means firstly we have the atomic number 1 element, then secondly we have the atomic number 2 element, then third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and so on, because atomic number is a unique property that no other element has. Now periodic table has vertical columns which are known as groups, vertical columns which are known as groups of elements, and these are horizontal rows which are known as periods. So in periodic table we have total 7 periods and how many groups of elements? 8 groups of elements. So what is the link between we have the 7 periods and 8 groups in the periodic table? So what is the link between electronic structure and periodic table of the elements, or with the periods or groups? So how many valence electrons do we have over here? We have one valence electron, one valence electron. So this valence electron shows the group number of element. It means that sodium is present in group 1. Sodium is present in group 1 of periodic table. So over here we have found that there is a relation between valence electron and its group number. Now secondly, how many electron shells do we have over here? 1 electron shell, 2 electron shells and 3 electron shells. So electron shells has direct relation with period number. From periodic table there are 3 electron shells, or electronic structure is occupied in 3 electron shells, so we can say that sodium element is present. Sodium element is present in period 3, or it is present in third period. So the electronic structure of an element has a relationship with the periodic table of the element. If the valence electrons tells us about the group number, and the number of shells in which its electrons are occupied tells us about the number of period. Now we have to find out the number of protons, electrons and neutrons in atoms and ions. We have earlier discussed about how can we able to calculate the number of protons or subatomic particles in an element by using its atomic number and its mass number. Suppose we are taking the example of nitrogen, 7 into 14. So nitrogen atomic number is 7, or its proton number is 7, and its atomic mass is 14. So from here we can get the information that protons are how many? 7, and its electrons are how many? 7, and its neutrons are atomic mass minus atomic number, and we get its number of protons. In this way we can calculate the number of protons from an atom. But what about the ion? Ion is a charged particle formed by the loss or gain of electrons from elements. When elements lose or gain electrons, they form the ions, and ions are charged particles. So we have two types of elements. One are known as metals and other are known as non-metals. So from here we have an other statement, that is metals form positive ions by the loss of valence electrons. By the loss of valence electron, and charge on metal ion will be the same as its number of valence electrons. So the charge on metal ion will be the same as its number of valence electrons. So the charge will be same as its number of valence electrons. Now we are going to discuss that how a metal will form a positive ion. just like lithium. Lithium atomic number is 3 and atomic mass is 7. Its electronic configuration is 2 in first shell and last shell has 1 electron. Now it will lose its valence electron, that is one valence electron, to form a positive ion, and its ion will bear a 1 positive charge. Drawing its electronic structure, lithium first shell how many electrons? 2 electrons, and second shell how many electrons? 1 electron. So lithium will lose 1 electron, minus sign will show that it is losing 1 electron. So it will lose 1 electron, and after losing its 1 electron, lithium has nucleus, and this is its first shell now with 2 electrons, and it is forming an ion with the positive charge. And how much positive, how many electrons it has lost? 1. So 1 positive charge will come on lithium ion. So lithium will form positive ion by the loss of 1 electron. Now what's the difference between the lithium atom and lithium ion? Now 3 7, this is lithium atom and this is lithium ion. 1 positive. Now we want to discuss the number of protons, electrons and neutrons. Number of protons, neutrons and electrons. Over here number of protons are how many? 3. Here the number of protons also 3. Number of neutrons are 7 minus 3. 7 minus 3, answer will be 4. Here the number of neutrons also 7 minus 3, answer will be 4. But in an atom, number of protons are equals to number of electrons to make it electrically neutral. So same number of electrons. But over here, how many electrons are? 3. But after looking towards the electronic structure of an ion, how many electrons are left? Because 1 is lost by lithium. So how many electrons is left? 2. In an ion, between an atom and an ion, the only difference is number of electrons. Number of protons and number of neutrons remain same. Similarly, we will take the example of a negative ion, how a negative ion is formed. So fluorine is in group 7 of the periodic table. Its atomic number is 9. Its atomic mass is 19. So its electronic configuration is first shell contain 2 electrons and second shell contain 7 electrons. So we had already discussed in our previous lesson that a second shell maximum contain 8 electrons, but over here fluorine has how many electrons? 7 electrons, and it needs 1 electron to complete its second shell. It means it can gain 1 electron. So how it can gain 1 electron? During a chemical reaction from other elements, it can gain 1 electron. So over here I am going to draw the structure, electronic structure of fluorine. Fluorine nucleus, first shell contain how many electrons? 2 electrons. And second shell contain how many electrons? 7 electrons. So plus 1 electron, it will gain 1 electron from other elements during a chemical reaction to complete its second shell or valence shell. And when it will gain 1 electron, opposite to the metals, over here we have discussed that metal form positive ions by the loss of valence electrons, but over here we will write that non-metals form negative ions. Non-metals form negative ions by the gain of electrons. They gain electrons in their valence shell to complete their valence shell, means that to complete their last shell. So how many electrons it needed? One. It will gain one electron. Now what would be the electronic structure of fluorine atom, fluorine ion, sorry. So fluorine in its first shell, how many electrons? 2 electrons, and in its last shell 2, 4, 6 and 7. It has already 7 electrons and 1 electron that it has gained, so that 1 electron is written by a cross in order to show a difference in electrons, that this electron is not from this element, it has gained from another source. So it will form a negative ion. How many what would be the charge, or what would be the value of the charge on this negative ion? It has gained 1 electron, so the charge will be 1. If it has gained 2 electrons, so the charge will be 2 negative. And if an element is gaining 3 electrons, so the charge on it will be 3 negative. So far for the metals, if a metal is losing 1 electron, so it will bear a 1 positive charge. If it is losing 2 electrons, so it will bear a 2 positive charge. And if it is losing 3 electrons from its valence shell, so the 3 positive charge will come on its ion. So we have shortly observed that how a positive and negative ion can be formed in order to write the number of electrons from their a number of electrons, protons and neutrons in their atoms and ions. Now we will discuss some of the questions related to this topic, and these questions are like: choose from the following particles to answer the questions below. One is beryllium, carbon, oxygen, neon, sulfur and calcium. So questions are: which particle has only 8 electrons? Has only 8 electrons. We will see over here that all these are atoms. All these are atoms. So in an atom, the atomic number is the same as the number of electrons. So we will see that oxygen has how many electrons? 8 electrons, and because it has atomic number 8. So our A part answer will be oxygen, which has 8 electrons in total. Our B part has only 4 electrons in its valence shell. 4 electrons in its valence shell. If we are writing the electronic configuration for beryllium, so it has 2 in the first shell, 2 in the second shell. For carbon, 2 in the first shell because it has total 6 electrons, and in its second shell how many electrons? 4 electrons, which will known as its valence shell. So has only 4 electrons in its valence shell. B part is carbon, which is 6 into 14. We can also solve these questions by taking the help of periodic table. C will form positive ion of the type X2 positive. X2 positive ion is formed by the loss of two valence electrons. Looking over here, like beryllium, it has 2 valence electrons, so it will lose 2 electrons to form an ion of the type X2 positive. So what would be the answer of the C part? It is our first choice, that is 4 into 8. Now the last part has 4 occupied electron shells. Over here the first two, one has occupied 2 electron shells. For oxygen, 8 atomic number, so first shell 2 electrons and second shell 6 electrons. Talking about neon, it has first shell contain 2 electrons and second shell contain 8 electrons. Sulfur, first shell 2 electrons, second 8 and third 6 electrons, so it has occupied 3 electron shells. But what about calcium? Calcium has 20 into 40 means 20 its atomic number. So first shell 2 electrons, second shell 8, third shell 8, and how many electrons are left? 2 plus 8 10, 10 plus 8 18, and last shell contain 2 electrons. Mean calcium is our choice which occupied 4 electron shells. Now complete the table by using this information. Over here, the first one is magnesium ion, second one is sulfide ion that is formed from sulfur, and lastly we have potassium atom, not ion, because it don't have any charge on it. So writing for the particles of magnesium, number of protons, as it has atomic number 12, so its number of protons are 12. Number of protons are equals to number of electrons, but 2 positive charge tells us that it has lost 2 electrons. So how many electrons it left? 12 minus 2, that it has lost how many? 10 electrons are left in magnesium ion. And how many neutrons? Atomic mass minus atomic number, answer will be 12. For sulfide ion, how many protons are here? 16, because its proton number is 16. Now, what about the number of electrons? Here is the opposite case. 2 negative is the charge on the ion. It means that it has gained 2 electrons instead of its own electrons. Its own atom has the electron 16, while it has gained 2 electrons, so in total it has 18 electrons. And how many number of neutrons? 32 minus 16, answer will be 16. Potassium, how many electrons? 19. How many protons? 19, because it is an atom, so same number of electrons will be. And how many neutrons? 39 minus 19, answer will be 12. So this was related to the atomic structure, that how can we deduce the number of protons, neutrons and electrons in atoms and ions from protons and nucleon number. This hope you will like the teaching, and we'll see you in the next video inshallah. Till then, Allah Hafiz.